When seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is fertile, and sowing of the seeds is not fertile, and sowing of the seeds is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone can please repeat. When the seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile, and the sowing of seeds is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. Purport. Maharaj Chitraketu was actually not destined to get a son. Therefore, although he married hundreds and thousands of wives, all of them proved barren, and he could not beget even one child. When Angira Rishi came to see the king requested the great sage to enable him to have at least one son. Because of the blessing of Angira Rishi, a child was sent by the grace of Maya, but the child was not to live for long. Therefore, in the beginning, Angira Rishi told the king that he would beget a child who would cause jubilation and lamentation. King Chitraketu was not destined to get a child by providence or by the will of the Supreme. Just as sterile grain cannot produce more grain, a sterile person, by the will of the Supreme Lord, cannot beget a child. Sometimes a child is born even to an impotent father and sterile mother, and sometimes a potent father and fertile mother are childless. Indeed, sometimes a child is born despite contraceptive methods, and therefore the parents kill the child in the womb. In the present age, killing children in the womb has become a common practice. Why? When contraceptive methods are taken, why don't they act? Why is a child sometimes produced so that the father and the mother have to kill it in the womb? We must conclude that our arrangement of so-called scientific knowledge cannot determine what will take place. What is enacted actually depends on the Supreme Will. It is by the Supreme Will that we are situated in certain conditions in terms of family, community, and personality. These are all arrangements of the Supreme Lord according to our desires under the spell of Maya illusion. Om Jnana Timirandasya Garanjana Sharakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Vipakada Mahyam Darati Shva Patantika Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Rishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivashari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I stopped here in the purport because this part of the purport explains the negative of the verse. Meaning, of course, every verse in the Bhagavatam is positive because it's pure devotional service. But this particular verse helps us to understand that one may have a very strong desire. And sometimes the Lord, because He promises in Bhagavad Gita that He will reciprocate. So because Chitraketu, very pious, he was a devotee. So even though he was not destined to have a child, because of his greatness, the child came. Otherwise, when he said, all right, your desire is so strong, you will get a child. But everything, as it says here, Isha Mayaya, everything is destined by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, even if we get something we desire and it's not good for us, just like in the 5th canto, there's a verse spoken by the demigods. I can't remember it right now. Satyam, I can't remember. But it says, the Lord wants to fulfill all of our desires. And if you hear that, oh, very nice. I have a list right here, 150, 200 desires. But then it says, but if He sees that by fulfilling that desire, it will cause you to become further implicated in illusion, then instead of that, He will put His lotus feet on your head, even though you don't want it. Because we may not want it. As I mentioned sometimes, we think, yes, my Lord, take away all of my desire, but not this one. No. This one, we can leave that for another 40 years, please. Well, at the end, I can take care of it, but right now, no. One disciple of mine, he came to me very worried when he read the verse, Yasyaham anugrinami tad harishe taddanam shanai. That when the Lord especially favors everyone, He takes everything away. He was very concerned. Is that going to happen to me? I said, that will happen to everyone. It just depends on when. No. So, practicing devotional service means preparing for that moment when either we die and everything gets taken away, or beforehand, if we're fortunate, Krishna will take everything away if it's an impediment. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he didn't want anything and he got a kingdom. No, he was the emperor of the world because he didn't want it. He simply wanted to serve Krishna. Even when it was given to him at the price of so many people dying, he was lamenting. And therefore Bhishma Dev enlightened everyone, all of the Pandavas. It was Krishna's desire. Krishna could have enlightened them. But Krishna always wants his devotee to take the credit. Krishna wants his devotee. Krishna wanted Arjuna to be victorious. Krishna could have avoided the war. Krishna could have punished the Kurus with a hurricane or a tornado or an earthquake, and they're all gone. But he wanted his devotee to become glorious. This is Krishna's desire. So before a devotee can become glorious, he'll have to become purified. And this is what people cannot understand. Just like here it's speaking about fertility. I saw a sign the other day here in Delhi, fertility clinic, but in small letters it said 10% success. Which means it was the will of the Lord that you would go to this clinic and you would try, and then whoever's in that 10% will get a child. The other 90% will go spend their money, and no result. But people are so foolish. they think, like Srila Prabhupada says here, that by contraceptive methods or by technology, we will do all these things. Soon we will be able to clone a human being. Actually, they have cloned. But what did they do? They take someone and put it into a womb. And that's what they call cloning. It's not like they created the living entity. But they want the credit. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, even the atom bomb, they take the credit, but it was made by Maya. It was made by Maya to punish the foolish rascals and to reduce the population. Just like when Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, he wanted to reduce the population of unwanted kings. And now people are so degraded that practically speaking, everyone should be not everyone, but everyone who is not a devotee, practically speaking, should be just wiped off the face of the earth according to their sinful activities. But because it's Kali Yuga, instead of doing that, according to the ancient laws of the Vedas, that's what should happen. But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is not what is happening. What is happening is that the devotees, out of their compassion, are going out and giving everyone the opportunity. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, it says that Kali Yuga was accelerated by the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, normally after 5,000 years, Kali Yuga would not be so bad as it is now. But it was actually made worse, it was accelerated. We're probably like it should be around 70, 80,000 years. But why? So that the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can become more evident. That we can see, just like Nityananda Prabhu, when Jagaya Madai chased him and Haridas out of town, they went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they reported what happened. Just like we report our Sankirtan results, also Nityananda Prabhu would report his Sankirtan results. These people, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forget about them. But Nityananda thought, no, I must, somehow or another, I must give them Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Because then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will become famous as the liberator of Jagai Madai, and he will be famous all over the universe. So we, in the same way, we go out to distribute books so that Srila Prabhupada will become famous all over the world. That he is the person who has liberated everyone. One professor, I think I might have mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. He was giving a speech, and he said there are three great personalities. Prabhupada is the greatest personality in this modern world. He said, only other two great persons are Christ and Mohammed. But they had some help. They had some disciples or some followers. Prabhupada had nothing. Had nothing, no money. Mohammed, he came from a wealthy family. Christ, he had followers, and he had circumstances that were favorable for his spreading. But Srila Prabhupada, everything was unfavorable. In India, it was unfavorable. He went to the U.S., it was unfavorable. Everything was unfavorable. But Prabhupada never gave up his determination. So this is the Sankirtan movement. It's meant to deal with persons who are like this, killing children in the womb. Just like recently in the U.S., the Supreme Court decided no more abortion. But then immediately they fought back. No, this is cruel. That you can have an abortion up to, I forget, they said 28 weeks or something like that. So, rascals. because they think they can solve everything by technology. So I'll finish the purport. So what can we do? As devotees, sometimes we have the same dilemma as the materialistic people. They have their desires, and when their desires are frustrated, they think, I need more money. Or like Prabhupada says here, certain conditions in terms of family, community, and personality. Sometimes people don't like their personality. Now, in the U.S. and Europe, I don't like even I'm a man or a woman, even when they're 8 or 9 years old. Now they're trying to pass a law. They can change. I don't like being a boy. I want to be a girl. So you go to the surgeon, fix it up, and you change. So they're trying to go against the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the unfortunate circumstance. Or community. Sometimes even devotees think, if I just go to another place, I will escape my suffering. I'm suffering here in Delhi, or I'm suffering in the U.S., therefore let me go to Vrindavan. But your destiny will follow you, just that it will manifest in a different way. Instead of getting hit by a car, you get hit by a bull. So, different. But the destiny will be there. You can't stop it. And so this is, but everyone is trying, even sometimes devotees are thinking, I will make this adjustment. So here comes the rest of the purport. These are all arrangements of the Supreme Lord according to our desires under the spell of Maya or illusion. In devotional life, therefore, one should not desire anything, since everything depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11. Anya vilashita shunyam jnanakarma jnanavritam anakul yena krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without a desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. No. Anakulyena. It must be favorable. So how do you make it favorable? Not desiring anything for oneself. Just like one time there was a Brahmin, very dedicated to Lord Narayan. And he had a very wonderful Brahmini wife. And he because of his yagyas, his puja, his chanting of mantras, his prayers, the Lord appeared before him. And he said, you have done so much service. I will give you three wishes, whatever you desire. So he thought, he said, my Lord, I just want to serve you, but actually, my wife is very wonderful, but she talks too much. And so maybe you could do something. And he said, yes, it is done. What? She is dead. No more talking. No. Won't bother you anymore. No, what have I done? People came, everyone was lamenting. Such a great Vaishnavi, such a wonderful lady. And he thought, what can I do? Oh, I'll use my other wish. Please, my Lord, bring her back to life. So she came back to life. Everyone, oh, look at this miracle. She's such a great person that she was revived. Then years went by. No, he never expressed his third wish. Finally, the Lord appeared in his mind. And he said, what, you took your third wish? He said, yes, my Lord. Because I realized that whatever I desire for myself will be incomplete. Therefore, my third desire is that whatever you desire, that is my desire. So this is Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Anushilanam means with great determination. And that great determination means there will be adverse circumstances in the execution of our devotional service, or in our life, or in our family, or in our friendships, or whatever, in our future, in our destiny. But we should see them, as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. He says in several places, but I always remember purport to Bhagavad Gita 2:56. He says, if we have difficult circumstances, we should think the Lord is only giving me enough, just enough, that I realize that this world is dukkhalayam shashvatam. And if everything is very favorable materially, we should think the Lord is giving me an opportunity to increase my service. Always like that. It is the Lord's desire. I never think, one devotee told me, he has some money, he said, me and my family, because we've done such nice service, Krishna has given me so much money, which Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says is the biggest illusion. So I said, well, what about this devotee who's been serving the deities for 15 years and has no money? What happened to him? Krishna forgot? No. Krishna forgot about him? He's been serving the deity longer than you. He's been doing devotional service longer than you. Yet he has no money. And he's happy that he has no money, like Sudam Brahman. He was very happy. As a matter of fact, the whole pastime of Sudam Brahman was the Lord's desire to show him that he was a little proud of being poor. Just a tiny, subtle desire that thinking that good. So he got opulence. But he still remained the same. So one should act only to develop Krishna consciousness. For everything else, one should be fully dependent on the Supreme Person. We should not create plans that will ultimately make us frustrated. So there it is right there. Any desire we have, any personal desire, anything that is not in accordance with the desire of the Lord. So one may say, how do I know the desire? People ask me this all the time. How do I know Krishna's desire? And when they ask me this, I'm surprised. What about Bhagavad Gita? No. Krishna tells very clearly what is his desire. What about Bhagavatam? What about Chaitanya Charitamrita? What about Nectar of Devotion? What about Srila Prabhupada's books? What about the instructions of the spiritual master? I think we have too much. Some people are, sometimes they don't come to the temple, they don't go to Bhagavatam class or Bhagavad Gita because they think, I'm going to hear something that will go against my desire. And therefore, let me avoid it. Let me avoid Krishna. We think, Krishna is good whenever he can give me some assurance that my material life will go on very nicely. And Krishna accepts that. Akama, sarvakama, moksha kama udaradi, tibrena bhakti yogena. But whether you are full of desires, have no desires, or just desire liberation, whatever your desire is, then you should worship Krishna with great enthusiasm. And Krishna will take care of everything. If your desires are favorable for your spiritual advancement, Krishna will fulfill that desires. This question was presented to Shukadev Goswami by Parikshit Maharaj. Why is it that the devotees of Shiva, they get so much material opulence? And Shiva is austere, and the devotees of Krishna or Narayan are some that don't have so much opulence, and Lakshmi or Radharani, Supreme Goddess Fortune. Well, something's wrong here. And Shukadev Goswami said, Lord Shiva is in charge of the 16 lingas of this material world. Otherwise, he's in charge of material energy. So that's why do we see so many people worshiping Shiva? Shiva, and then they worship Ganesh, get rid of all the obstacles. No. But Lord Brahma says in Brahma Samhita that Lord Nrsimhadev, his two lotus feet are on the tusks of Ganesh. Of course, sometimes he only has one, so the Lord has to do a balancing act. But no, otherwise, he gets his power to destroy obstacles from Lord Nrsimhadev, the dust of his lotus feet. And what kind of obstacles would Nrsimhadev have the power to destroy? Obstacles to devotional service. So when we pray to him for destroying the obstacles of material life, most likely it won't happen. It's just your karma. And so what does all this have to do with our mission? We can understand that from Prahlad Maharaj. And we can understand how can we have all these desires. This is another question, especially here in India, where I hear all the time. I have so many desires. I want to serve Krishna with my heart. What can I do? Well, Anyabilashita Shunyam. You follow the instructions of Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada. What can you do? You glorify Krishna. This is what Prahlad Maharaj said. This material world is certainly full of so many obstacles, but Tadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magnachita. But because I am absorbed in glorifying you, and it's such nectar, and my consciousness is absorbed in your lotus feet, therefore I have no problem. I can overcome any obstacle. But there's one thing that bothers me. Shoche tata vimukha chatasa indriyartam. That so many people are suffering because they've turned their back to you, my dear Lord. Maya sukhaya bharam udvahato vimudhan. And they're trying to make so many arrangements for their illusion, and therefore they are vimudha. Not just mudha, they are vimudha. They are professional fools. They are maha fools. And that's what we have nowadays. And therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, I cannot turn my back on them. And then he goes on and says, even though I have a very favorable situation, I'm glorifying the Lord, just like we have a favorable situation. We can sit and chant Hare Krishna. But, Prabhupada said again and again, our duty is not to sit and imitate Haridas Thakur. And even Haridas Thakur didn't just sit. He went out every day and chanted 100 rounds in a loud voice, trying to save all the living entities, even the trees. He was so merciful. He would chant so loudly that the trees would become ecstatic. It sounded like an echo, but actually they were chanting. And so we should follow his example of preaching, not try to imitate his meditation. And so he says, Prayena Deva Munaya Swavimukti Kama. The saintly persons, Swavimukti Kama, their desire is their own liberation. And unfortunately, Maunam Charanti Vijane, they do vows of silence, they wander in the forests, but Na Parartha Nishtaha, but they don't have the desire of para upakara. They're feeling the desire to help others. Therefore, Etan Bihai Kripan. Therefore, I cannot give up the Kripan, even though they're Kripanas. They're miserable. It would be very easy to give them up. I cannot do so. Vimuksha eko, just for my own liberation. Why? No. Nam torasya sharanam tu nupasye. Because my Lord, there is no other, I don't see any other solution for them other than to take shelter of your lotus feet. No. So, the Sankirtan movement didn't just start with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It started with Prahlad Maharaj millions of years ago. He told us this should be our mood. How can we turn our backs on the suffering people? We have got the great fortune of devotional service. Another thing is, are we taking advantage of it? But we have that fortune. And the way to take advantage of it is to participate fully and always think of the benefit of all the fallen conditioned souls in Kali Yuga, who are suffering so much due to the power of Maya, which ultimately, as it says here, Isha Mayaya, is the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna makes this world miserable so that the living entities can question, how do I stop this? And give up, but only by the mercy of the devotees will they stop doing it through technology or through warfare or through other means that they have adopted. They think, by warfare, we'll just go conquer this other country and then everything will be okay. No. But it's never worked. One war after another. Now there's a war in the Gaza Strip. There's a war in Ukraine. There's a war everywhere. There's threats of war. Even in the U.S., there's a threat of a civil war. The conservatives versus the liberals. Very strong, getting more polarized. So this is the nature of Kali Yuga. And we should be very glad. Prabhupada said one time, war is good. Then people will suffer, and when we preach, then they will take it seriously. Not that we pray for war, but if war comes, we take advantage of it. Just like big business people take advantage of war. They move the gold wherever it's going to be favorable. And sometimes many people, they're the ones who are manipulating the war so that it will be favorable for X country with all my assets. I don't know if that is true, but could be. So this world is a nasty place. This is the world of exploitation. Everyone is exploiting someone else. And Krishna is exploiting us. He's exploiting us so that we can become happy. And they're exploiting everyone to think they're becoming happy so they can work harder for those that are controlling everything. So if you have to be exploited, because we're tiny infinitesimal jivas, better to be exploited by Krishna. Otherwise, Krishna's energy, swabhaviki ganabala kriya cha, his energy work automatically. He doesn't have to. It's not like Krishna saying, I want a hurricane over here. I want an earthquake over here. No, it happens automatically by his energies, according to his will. And what is his will? That everyone will come back home, back to Godhead. So we're trying to accelerate that. That is our desire. That is the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to accelerate that people will go finally take shelter of Krishna. And therefore, there's even more miseries and more craziness in the material world, so that devotees can preach. And we should preach strongly, just like Srila Prabhupada preached. But intelligently. Strongly doesn't mean we say foolish things that turn people away. It means that we learn the Shastras so nicely that we can preach strongly and it will make sense. And people will take it seriously. So these are some thoughts on this verse. I don't know if there's time for one or two questions, if there are any. But yes. Just 1 second, let me put in my artificial ears so I can hear you. Due to Padayatra, I lost like 50% of my hearing. I was 1 year on Padayatra, and boy, was that loud. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Is it audible, Maharaj?
Yes.
Maharaj, thank you first of all for nicely explaining everything. And you nicely said that if we have to get exploited better by Krishna. So my question is, Maharaj, that you said that we have favorable situation for practicing Krishna consciousness, and but Prahlad Maharaj said, but we cannot, how we can move our back from the suffering souls and leave the preaching. So one point which question come in mind that yes, I have favorable situations available to me by devotees' mercy, but I have not sufficiently practiced practiced it and I have not sufficiently purified myself. So how I am not eligible to help others right now. I should practice more. So
Yeah.
this question comes.
If we think that it depends on me, then we're doomed to failure. It depends on Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, what will your 3-minute talk do? Better just give them the book. Let Prabhupada convince them. Even if I'm a very advanced devotee, or I'm a very neophyte devotee, still you should think, oh, I'm an advanced devotee, therefore whatever I say, they'll be transformed. Because if you think like that, most likely they will not be transformed, so that you learn to be humble, which Lord Chaitanya says in Shikshastika. So you should have that humble attitude, as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, that just depend on Krishna. No desire other than the desire to fulfill the desire of Krishna. And how do we understand desire of Krishna? Just like I just said, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, as Sri Narottam Das Thakur says. These are our 5 sources of empowerment. And if we depend on them, then we will be successful. Hare Krishna. Anyone else quickly? Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, in this pastime, like Chitraketu Maharaj is a devotee. Chitraketu Maharaj is a devotee. And how he could not understand the will of Lord, and he married many wives, still he didn't have son. And then he asked Rishi, Angira Rishi to bless. So it's like a will of a Lord again, but how...
But Chitraketu is a pure devotee. So we might think, why does he have to do this? This is Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya is acting throughout the Bhagavatam to put either great devotees or convert someone into a great devotee by putting them in a circumstance that they would not normally do. Just like Parikshit Maharaj, when he put the snake around the neck of Shamika Rishi, afterwards he thought, why did I do that? After he was cursed. This must be the desire of the Lord. I would never do that, but I did it somehow. I mean, he was a Maha Bhagavata. But, why was Arjuna ask foolish questions when he's sitting on a couch with Krishna joking? How can he be so bewildered? Because this is all Yoga Maya. So Chitraketu, he's put in this circumstance. Thousands of wives, maybe millions, so many wives. And he couldn't have a child. So this is the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that he was put in that circumstance to teach us. So we should be very grateful to him that he underwent this suffering just to help us. And also that deepened his dependence on Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna puts even his pure devotees in difficulty so that they will become more dependent on him. Even the residents of Vrindavan. So we'll stop here. You can come and ask me because I don't want to hold up the Sankirtan program. Otherwise I'll be chastised. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Shri Prabhupada Marathon ki jai, Nitai Gaur Pimanandi, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.